Hello and welcome to 𝐿𝐴𝐧𝐧𝐬𝐿 Bundesliga match day 22. What a weekend we had. The previous one with Bayer Leverkusen thrashing Bayern Munich, and now the big question mark is if we are going to see a reaction for Bayern Munich and if it's still possible to win another Bundesliga title for Tuchel men. Ronan Murphy, any answer to these questions?
I think Tuchel is trying to figure out the answers to those questions himself. There's been talk that he might even turn to Thomas Muller as his savior, and Thomas Muller hasn't been really part of his team so far this season. He hasn't been a key figure for Bayern Munich as we've seen over previous years. So I think he's maybe turning into panic mode at Bayern Munich at the moment. So they usually do get a good result after a bad result, but yeah, I think we have to maybe look to the Champions League, and the Bundesliga rivals they have for the next few weeks probably won't be as concerned then if they take out all their anger in the Champions League in midweek.
Well, Nagelsmann was sacked. Surprisingly, I'm not saying that Tuchel is going to be sacked, but there are already rumors about even Mourinho arriving to Munich. I wouldn't give too much credit to those rumors, but who knows? Tuchel is under pressure. Bayern Munich playing in Bochum. So time to analyze this new match day. Of course, remember to press the like, subscribe. Let's go on with the show. As always, the Bundesliga match day starts on Friday with Cologne, Werder Bremen. Cologne is still in the bottom three in play-out spots, but they are getting points and points here and there. They drew with Hoffenheim after the victory against Frankfurt. It's only one defeat in the last five still. They need to get points because they are 5 points away to get out of these spots. And Werder Bremen mid-table lost to Heidenheim. It was a surprise because they were coming from 3 straight wins. Tough one to call this one, as we can see in the odds.
Yeah, it is. But if you look at Cologne picking up points last week, I think they were lucky to pick up points. They created 0.17 XG. So they had one shot off target, one shot on target, and the one shot on target went into the net. So it was one of those lucky days for Cologne, and they haven't been a team who've scored a lot so far this season. They're averaging 0.7 goals per game, so not a lot of goals coming from a Cologne end. The most common result in the past in this one is 1-1. The most common result in Cologne is a 0-0. So I wouldn't expect too many people will be tuning into this game on Friday evening. It doesn't look like the most appealing one. Total goals under 2.5 could be an option here at 1.97. Bremen won 2-1 earlier this season, and then before that it was a 1-1 at the end of last season. Before that, surprisingly, it was a 7-1 win for Cologne, but I don't think we'll see that one again this time. So yeah, total goals under 2.5 looks like a good option. I think there also could be value perhaps in correct score 1-1 here, 6.5 there. That could be an option. But I don't think Cologne have much about them, so I think Werder Bremen probably are likely to win this one or draw. So my tip for this one is Bremen Asian handicap 0, 2.1.
Yeah, not many goals expected on the Friday evening. In Germany, one of the best games of the weekend is Heidenheim, Bayer Leverkusen. Of course, Leverkusen, after this great victory against Bayern Munich, not only the result 3-0 is that they were much better, created so many chances. Bayern Munich was not on the pitch in that day, and now they are again the big favorites to win the Bundesliga. But of course, on paper, if someone is not following the Bundesliga, they might think that this is an easy game because Heidenheim, they don't have experience in the Bundesliga. But it's one of the biggest surprises of the season, beating Werder Bremen away before 4 consecutive draws. It's 8 games unbeaten for Heidenheim. What a season for these two teams in their level, of course, but great seasons.
Yeah, it is. It's an amazing season for Heidenheim, and they will be happy with how it's gone so far this year and so far this season. They'll be delighted, but I don't think they'll be too disappointed then if their 8-game winning or undefeated run comes to an end this weekend and extends Bayer Leverkusen's own run, because they'll be heading for more records themselves. They're currently on 31 unbeaten games. They'll need another unbeaten game to equal Hansi Flick's record as Bayern Munich manager for the best unbeaten run of a German team, and they could extend that further after the European exploits. They could beat Heidenheim, and then later on in the Europa League they could make that even better. So it seems to be that at the moment Bayer Leverkusen can't be beaten, they can't be stopped. I'd be very surprised if Heidenheim were able to stop them, but as we've seen before, Heidenheim are a team capable of scoring against anybody. They don't really fear many teams. So both teams to score, yes, could be an option in this one. That's 1.8 for that one. Leverkusen won this match earlier in the year 4-1. So it showed that Heidenheim were even able to score when they were getting kind of that sort of level of performance against them. So they still are capable of scoring against Bayer Leverkusen. So I think there could be a goal in this for Heidenheim, but I'm not sure there's going to be a result in it for it. If you look at, we've mentioned on previous weeks, the Opta supercomputer predicting who was going to win the Bundesliga before the Bayern Munich game, it was 49% for Leverkusen to win, and now they're up to 66.1% to win the Bundesliga this year. And that's reflected in the odds that you can see on Oddspedia. The odds are 1.5 for Leverkusen to win the league, and now Bayern are out to 2.63. So it looks like Leverkusen are now comfortably the favourites to win the Bundesliga, which they hadn't been even when they were 5 points clear at one stage. But now this game has kind of changed things hugely in the Bundesliga, and it seems like Bayern Munich will have to play catch up, and it's going to be hard to see where Leverkusen will slip up, because you don't think it's going to be in this one. So I'm confident of a big Leverkusen win here. So that's why my tip for this one is Leverkusen edge and handicap -1.5.
The bookies expect goals in this game. Look, even the over 3 goals pays only 1.84. The odds are very low for the over. The both teams to score, as Ronan said, is a very good option. I don't think we are going to see many goals in the Hoffenheim Union Berlin, because Union Berlin games are following the pattern of low scoring games, winning at home and not winning away. They are the worst away team still in this Bundesliga with only 5 points, and Hoffenheim, they are in a bad run, still without a win in 7 in 3 consecutive draws for Hoffenheim.
Yeah, it was another 1-0 game for Union Berlin last weekend. It was a win. Obviously, it was a good one, but they've scored two or fewer goals in every single game, or in every game. There's been 2 or fewer goals, so they haven't played out even a 5-1 defeat kind of yet. It's just been 1-0, 1-1, those kind of games. There's not a lot happening in Union Berlin games so far this season, so I don't expect one to happen here. And like you said, it could be definitely a low scoring affair. Hoffenheim won 2-0 in Berlin earlier this season, so that should give them confidence, but they're yet to win in 2024, so they'll be looking to this one to pick up their first win of the year. Their form has improved. Obviously, the 3 score draws in a row, so they are scoring. So coming up against a team that barely score is a good place to be in for Hoffenheim at the moment. Hoffenheim are averaging 1.8 goals so far this season. Union Berlin only exactly one a game. So both teams to score. Is always one you should look at, I think, in Union Berlin games, so because it's only happened in 38% of their games so far this season. So both teams to score 2.3. I think could be a good one to look at here. Hoffenheim to win to 0 could be another option, 3.8. I think it could be easily a 1-0 or a 2-0 win, but looking at the overall odds, just an outright Hoffenheim win looks like a good one here. It looks good value.
Even the under 2.5 goals, for instance, is 2.14. Really good value. Surprisingly, the bookies expect an over here. The over has lower odds than the under. I'm surprised following the stats, and I'm also surprised to see Mainz favorite in the next game. Mainz Augsburg is 2.14, only for Mainz to win. We have to remember that they are penultimate in the standings. In the way to Bundesliga 2 is 11 winless games since they beat Leipzig and Augsburg. They are doing a good season. They are coming from a draw against Leipzig. It's only 2 wins away on the road for Augsburg, but still, again, the value, I guess, is on Augsburg picking up points here.
Yeah, it is. The bookies perhaps must fancy a new manager bounce because Mainz have decided to sack their second manager this season, so they'll be on to number 3 by the time this match happens. So, yeah, 𝐜𝐴𝐧𝐧𝐬𝐴, he's looking for a new job. He won his first game. That was that game against Leipzig, and he hasn't won any match since. So yeah, so no wonder they've gotten rid of him. But that was again their only win of the season. So I would be surprised if they do get anything here, because Augsburg they've been quite consistent so far this year. 1 win and 2 draws from 5 games in 2024 is pretty good, and one of those 2 draws was a 2-2 against Leipzig. And the losses that they've had this season, you wouldn't be disappointed if you were an Augsburg fan with the losses, because they were against Bayern Munich and Bayer Leverkusen. So they've performed when they should be performing, and they've not performed when you expect them not to perform. So you would expect them to pick up points here, and hopefully they will. Demerovic came out, the captain, after the game against Leipzig. He said that they showed once again that we can hold our own against any team, and I think they can. I think Mainz will be no problem for them. Probably Augsburg won the game in September 2-1. They lost both games last season, but this is a totally different Mainz team from the one that we saw last season. So I'm confident in Augsburg getting something here. Augsburg Asian handicap 0 is 2.5. That could be an option if you want to kind of hedge your bets on this one, but I think the odds are very favourable for Augsburg to win here. So I would be looking at that as my tip for this one.
Well, next one is Darmstadt. Stuttgart, when Guirassy got injured and went also to the African Cup, so he's not been around for a while. We had questions and we were suspicious about how Stuttgart was going to perform, but 𝐸𝐴𝐬𝐻 is scoring plenty of goals, and Stuttgart is delivering 6 points now from Leipzig. 3 consecutive wins in the Bundesliga, usually high scoring games, and well, Darmstadt is the bottom team in the Bundesliga, so this is a favorable game for Stuttgart to keep the good form.
Yeah, it is. They won the reverse game 3-1 earlier this season, but they should have no confidence of repeating that feat or getting an even better result here, because Guirassy, like you said, he's back from the African Cup of Nations. 𝐸𝐴𝐻 was scoring in his absence, and then Guirassy came off the bench last week and he was on the pitch as 𝐸𝐴𝐻 scored to make it 3 to score the 3rd goal in the victory over Mainz. So I think that partnership, we might see them both together start in the games in future, and they'll get to score a lot of goals together. Stuttgart are the only team in Europe, in the top 10 leagues in Europe, in fact, that have 2 players with 14 or more goals. Guirassy 17 and 𝐸𝐴𝐻 is now up to 14. So this is a team with strikers who are scoring consistently. So they should get plenty of goals against Darmstadt. You would think they're kind of cannon fodder here. Could be one of those games. Darmstadt only had 1 shot on target in the 0-0 with Gladbach. They created just 0.82 xG, so they weren't really doing much in that game. So I don't think they'll get a lot here from this one. The average goal is 1 for Darmstadt and 2.3 for Stuttgart, and now that Guirassy and 𝐸𝐴𝐻 are both fit, I think they will score lots of goals. So that's why for this one I'm going for Stuttgart Asian handicap -1.25, and that's at 2.13.
It would be a massive surprise if we see Stuttgart next season in the Champions League, but they have it in their hand. Let's see if Leipzig is able to catch up. In the meantime, we also have a good game in the same time. Is Wolfsburg Borussia Dortmund. Dortmund having really good results in this 2024. They beat Freiburg, as you said, by the way, 3-0. It was Malen scoring a brace. The protagonist of that game is 4 wins and 1 draw in 2024, and Wolfsburg keep disappointing us this season. Now is 6 winless games for Wolfsburg.
Yeah, it is. And in that game against Union Berlin, they did not create much at all. Jonas Vind had the only kind of real chance for them. He got a good save from the goalkeeper, but after the game, Kovac was saying that they were a better team, and he was kind of blaming video referee and the referee for the result. And I think it's kind of, he's a manager that's under pressure and he's looking for people to blame at the moment. But I imagine after this match, he could be even more under more pressure and he could be out of a job because he's not doing a good job at the moment. And with the way Borussia Dortmund have started 2024, obviously they had that 0-0 against Heidenheim, which kind of came out of the blue. But in the other 4 of the 5 games they've played this season, they've scored 3 or more goals. So this is a team that are scoring a lot of goals. They've conceded just 1 goal this year. So Borussia Dortmund are a very different beast than what we saw in 2023. So I would expect them to easily take care of business against Wolfsburg. Jadon Sancho, he will be back from injury, a bit more fit for this one. He only played 2 minutes and stoppage time in that game at the weekend, and in that few minutes he was on the pitch, he had an XG of 0.4 by himself. So he is a huge difference maker for Borussia Dortmund, and I expect him to make a difference in this game. Füllkrug as well has started 2024 brilliantly. He has 5 goals in his last 4 games. So Malen, Füllkrug, Sancho, these players will be hard for Wolfsburg to stop, and I don't think they will have much chance of stopping it. Wolfsburg haven't won yet this year. They're not going to win here. Total goals over 3 I think could be an option in this one, because I imagine Borussia Dortmund will get back to the way they've been playing and they'll score lots of goals. So that's 1.98 for total goals over 3. Dortmund to win to 0 is another option, 4.75. I like the look of. Correct score 3-0 to Borussia Dortmund is 23 if you're willing to go that far out. I think that could be on the cards, but I think they'll play it slightly safer and go for Borussia Dortmund win, which I think is great value with the way they've been playing and the way Wolfsburg is playing here. So Dortmund to win is 2.25. I think looks very good.
And this season they are winning away because last season they had problems. It's only 1 defeat on the road for Dortmund, 4 wins and 5 draws. How do you see the tie with PSV? Is one of the most open ones in the Champions League.
Yeah, I think it could be quite an open one, because PSV have probably performed above expectations in the Champions League so far, and Borussia Dortmund perhaps the same. There was a time there when even 𝐜𝐭𝐿𝐴𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐿 was under pressure for what he was doing in the Bundesliga, but the Champions League results were kind of glossing over the fact that they were doing poorly in the Bundesliga. But like I said, Borussia Dortmund have seemed to turn a corner, so this Borussia Dortmund looks better on all fronts, and I think they should have enough about them to see off PSV and go into the next round of the competition. I think this is the Dortmund will be happy enough to have got PSV in the draw compared to some of the teams they could have been facing. So they should be able to use this and juggle the Bundesliga and the Champions League a bit better than if they had drawn a giant of Europe rather than PSV. So I think they'll be happy enough with it, and I would imagine they'll comfortably advance to the next round of the competition.
They did the job topping their group, the group of death in the Champions League. So now they have kind of an easier tie in the last 16 round. Leipzig was not that lucky getting Real Madrid in the last 16, but they finished second behind Man City. But thinking about the Bundesliga, they must win. They are 3 points away from Borussia Dortmund. As we can see in the standings, they won't play Champions League next season, and they have to win. They are playing Gladbach, a team that is underperforming this season, and Leipzig, they are having an awful run in 2024. It's only 1 win this year. So, Ronan, we should back them, or this Leipzig is too weak, especially defensively, that is easy to trust.
Yeah, I think Gladbach, they're massive value, especially considering the week that Leipzig are going to have playing against Real Madrid and then coming into this game on Saturday evening in Germany. So I think Gladbach are massive value here. And I know Gladbach have been inconsistent, but when we predicted them with an Asian handicap a few weeks ago when they were playing Bayern Munich, they were able to kind of hit that they're not a team that roll over and get beaten big by the bigger teams. So I think they will be able to hold their own against Leipzig, especially after Leipzig in the Champions League. So I think this could be a close game. Leipzig, they would hope to win it, but I think Gladbach should have a chance here to keep it close or maybe pick up a point. they're massive value for the win. And I think it could be, if you really wanted to go out on a limb, you could put maybe something small on Gladbach and see what might happen there. But yeah, Leipzig's form in 2024, like you said, has been awful. The 3 losses, a draw with Augsburg and a win over Union Berlin. They're kind of flattering to deceive so far in the Bundesliga. So I'm not too confident in them. Gladbach, on the other hand, have been very unpredictable. They've beaten Stuttgart, they drew with Leverkusen, but then they went and drew with Darmstadt and lost to Augsburg. So it's kind of, it's hard to predict what they'll do from game to game, but at the same time, they're not getting beaten big, so they should be able to stay in this one. And I think that both teams should be able to score goals in this one. So far this season, both teams to score yes has happened in 69% of games for Leipzig, 71% of games for Gladbach. So both teams to score yes looks good at 1.6 here. Both teams have won a game apiece in each of the last 3 seasons. So when one team wins one game, the other team wins the other one. So Leipzig won 1-0 in Gladbach earlier this season, Mönchengladbach earlier this season. So if you want to go for Mönchengladbach to get something from this one, or even to win it, it could be worth a small tipple. But my overall tip is for Gladbach just to keep it close. So Gladbach Asian handicap plus 1.5 is 1.91. I think that looks very good.
Okay, even if they lose by 1 goal, you will win your bet if you go for Asian handicap plus 1.5 on Gladbach. On Sunday, 2 more games. Freiburg, Frankfurt. Freiburg, they are playing Europa League against Lens. So perhaps they are tired and they are conceding a lot of goals. 11 goals conceded in the last 4 games. Very leaky, whereas Frankfurt also fighting for the European spots. This is a direct clash for teams that want to play Europe next season. For Frankfurt is also or only 1 win in the last 4. But the bookies place Freiburg as favorite. This is a tough game. I think it's very balanced, to be honest.
Yeah, it is. And Frankfurt obviously also have an away game in Europe this week. So it's a bit less to travel because they're coming back from Belgium, but they still have an away game to play. So both teams, you'd imagine, will be tired after the European trips. Freiburg won the reverse fixture 5-2 earlier this season, but Freiburg have started this year kind of poorly. 3 defeats in the last 3 games. It's not good form going into this one. And Frankfurt, on the other hand, have picked up a couple of kind of attractive wins. They've played well enough. They've beat Leipzig and Mainz, and they've drawn with Bochum and Darmstadt, so they've started the year a lot better than Freiburg have. In that game against Dortmund last week that we mentioned, Freiburg were very poor throughout. They didn't really create a lot. The total was 0.23 xG, so there wasn't really a lot of chances at all. And when you compare that to Frankfurt's draw against Bochum, they had over 2.5 xG. They nearly created twice as many chances as Bochum did. So Frankfurt are a much better team up front at the moment, I think, than Freiburg are. That's kind of shown in the average goals. It's 1.2 to 1.5. So I think Frankfurt could get something here, maybe a point, maybe all 3 points, but that's why I think the tip here looks good for Eintracht Frankfurt, the Asian handicap 0 at 2.23.
It's already 4 points difference between Frankfurt and Freiburg. If Frankfurt are able to get something from the Black Forest, they will be in a good position to play European football again next season. And Freiburg already 37 goals conceded. This season is 12 more than Frankfurt, a team that was very good last season at keeping clean sheets and keeping the defense very strong. And the last game is Bochum Bayern Munich, as we were saying at the beginning of the video. Under pressure, Tuchel, Bayern Munich, after that defeat in the Bayer Arena, and the way they were defeated, they are playing in Champions League against Lazio. So usually, as you said, when they have a bad result, they thrashed or they react in the next game. Bochum, of course, on paper, they are really weak, but this season, also last season, they were competitive when they play at home.
They have been, yeah, at times, but this obviously is Bayern Munich, a wounded Bayern Munich. So this is different than playing Darmstadt at home, for example. It's a very different animal they're going to come up against. So I'd imagine that Bayern Munich will try to do everything in their power to win every game they can, and there'll be maybe even less rotation from Thomas Tuchel than we could have expected. Maybe if they had have beaten Leverkusen last week, you could see Matthias Tell or someone like that perhaps start a game like this, but I don't think they're going to give Harry Kane any rest. He's probably going to play every minute from now until the end of the season. Poor Harry will be wrecked by the time that England are playing in the Euros in the summer. Bayern will have worn him out. So yeah, I think Bayern Munich will comfortably win this one. The most common result is 3-1 to Bayern Munich in this match. Bayern won this game earlier this season 7-0, and last season it was 7-0 as well and 3-0. So this is a game that Bayern Munich obviously love playing. They love playing Bochum because they're not a great side to face a team of kind of world-class talent like Bayern Munich. So Bochum's average goals is 1.1 to Bayern's 2.8. So both 3-0 and 3-1 could be options here. They're both coming in at 10 if you wanted to put a flutter on either of those. But I wouldn't be surprised if there was even more goals. It could be another 5 or 6, 7-0 like we've seen in the past. Total goals over 3.5 is 2.07. Looks a good option here. Bayern are 2.8 to win both halves. That's another one that could be a good one. So there is value in Bayern Munich in this match, but I like a big Bayern Munich win overall. So Bayern Munich minus 1.5 is 1.92 here.
Well, it's funny, the head-to-head between these two teams. We can check it because, as you said, it's 7-0 this season for Bayern Munich. Last season was 3-0 in Munich, 7-0 in Bochum for Bayern Munich. But 2 seasons ago, Bochum won 4-2. And we saw another 7-0 for Bayern Munich. So in 3 years, 3 times Bayern Munich won or beat Bochum 7-0. We can check, I guess, how much is 7-0 exact score for correct score for Bayern Munich. Let me check it.
Yeah, I gave you 3-0 and 3-1, but I didn't look up 7-0.
151 is the higher odds. I can see it in Oddspedia, of course. It's Bet Victor, but some other bookies give you around 100, 130. So if you want back 7-0 for Bayern Munich, this is the return you are having on your investment. Could be an option. There 3 times in 3 years. What are the odds? Maybe we have 4 in 4. Well, Ronan, tell me your best bet for this match day.
Yeah, my safe bet is Bayern Munich to win 7-0 at 151. Yeah, my safe bet to win this week is Bayern Munich, just to win. Bayern Munich to win, 1.36.
Yeah, looks like a safe one. And the ACCA?
My ACCA, I'm going for a big ACCA because I like some of the value that's just on wins this week. I think some of the bookies seem to be favouring some teams a bit more than they perhaps should, and maybe aren't taking some of the European games into account. So my ACCA this week has 5 teams in it. So Bayer Leverkusen to win, Hoffenheim to win, Stuttgart to win, Bayern Munich to win, and Augsburg Asian handicap 0. And that comes in at 14.84.
Okay, big one. Indeed. Well, Ronan, thank you. See you next week. Bye-bye.